Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 525 of the MTGGoldfish podcast. I'm Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and we have the full crew here this week. Kicking things off with the owner of MTGGoldfish, Richard. How are you this fine Monday, Richard?
Good morning, Seth. It was a good weekend. Like some throwback to Saturday morning cartoons with the recent spoilers, surprise spoilers. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we jumped super far in the future with spoilers, but we're gonna get to that in a minute. We got another co-host in Krim. Good morning, Krim. I heard you stayed up all night playing some video games. How was your weekend?
What day is it? I don't, dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. The sun is like cracking through my window. It's kind of weird. I think I messed up my sleep schedule again because of Monster Hunter. So
I've never played Monster Hunter. Is it good? Should I play it?
no. Because
no. Okay. that's the problem.
The problem is never if an MMO is bad, because then you just don't play it.
Yeah. Anyway, for today's cast, we got a few big topics. So we're going to start off with the surprise Spider-Man spoilers, and then we got some extra news kind of attached to the Spider-Man set. Want to talk a little bit about price increases that are also coming alongside this Universes Beyond stuff, what that means for Standard. Maybe get into Mark Rosewater's list of the most influential card designs of all time. So those are the main topics for today. But before we get into that, a reminder that today's show is brought to you by Card Conduit, and Card Conduit's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. If you ever get tired of the hassles of buy listing, you can skip them with Card Conduit. You can use their curated service where you send in as many cards as you want with a buy list value of $1 or more and pay just a 5% service fee. And if you want to do a bit of work, you can use their sorted service where you list and sort your cards in advance and pay just a 2% fee. Either way, you're going to get a detailed report with the results and a fast payment once your order is processed. And you can even get another 10% off by heading over to cardconduit.com/MTGGoldfish. Card Conduit, it's the easiest way to sell your Magic cards. So thank you to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And let's talk some Magic, and let's start with what is definitely the biggest news of the week, which is a couple of days ago, out of the blue, this article came up from IGN, I believe, with some spoiler cards in it. But these are not spoiler cards from Final Fantasy or from our return to Tarkir. We're jumping all the way ahead to September to talk some Marvel Spider-Man. So we got 6 cards from this set. These come from the Scene box, which is something they did with Lord of the Rings, where you can buy this box, you get these 6 cards and a couple of boosters and some art cards and stuff. But this is a Spider-Man version of those cards. Richard, I know you're hyped for this set. Why don't you guide us through some spoilers? But before we get to the cards, what do you guys think of the look of these cards? Because I know when we talk about these like comic book IPs and whatever, a lot of it's about the flavor. Does it actually kind of fit the vibe? Richard, you're the art critic on the podcast. What do you think of this art style?
I, who know nothing about art, am the art critic. It looks like Spider-Man cards. You know what I mean? Like the art fits the general image in your head when you think of like comic book art. So I really like them. They're also borderless cards. So when Wizards does the borderless treatment, they usually do different art, right, than when it's in the frame. But so far, this is A+. Like I was telling Seth, like if you saw these on like some Topps Spider-Man set or something at Target, you're like, yeah, it looks fine, right? So it's not like Magic-fied Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man, the Spider-Man you expect. It's Venom, the Venom you expect, right? So I'm all for it.
It does look like the comics, and Wizards actually confirmed that for the Marvel sets, they're really focused on the comics and not the movies. And these cards, if you put them in the right order, they actually make like a panorama thing, which is part of the borderlessness. So that's also kind of cool. Krim, what do you think of the aesthetic of these cards?
Yeah, they look exactly like how I imagine Spider-Man has, right? And like I think I really appreciate the art on this alone. I mean, I can really dig into this. Like because I love the flavor of it, but we can get into the next segment if you want. But as of right now, the art does look good. I love the way it's weird. I recently praised this comic that I was reading, Avengers versus Aliens. And I know this sounds hilarious.
Wait, aliens?
Universes Beyond has, yeah, exactly. Universes
like
Beyond has
xenomorphs?
ruined comics. Yep, like xenomorphs.
Wait, why are there like what? There's universes
Dude,
beyond.
yeah,
now?
there's
what?
No, dude, I swear, and it's written by Jonathan
I actually want to
Hickman.
go read this now. Like what? Like that's kind of crazy.
It shouldn't be good. It has no right to be this good, but oh my god, it's masterful. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's the Marvel characters drawn as if they're in the universe of Alien, not the other way. So it doesn't look cartoony, it looks dark, it looks super grim, and you could just tell humanity is desperate, right?
Ooh.
So it looks really good. And what they did with these Spider-Man cards is it looks like, yeah, it's still comic booky, but it's in the world of magic. And I like that.
Well, let's actually talk about some of the cards. Get into the flavor of these cards, and I guess we might as well start with Spider-Man. Richard, why don't you take it away?
Sensational Spider-Man. 1 white, blue. So 3 mana, Azorius. 3/3. Legendary creature. Spider-Human Hero. What? Okay, we'll get into that type line in a second. When Sensational Spider-Man attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then you may remove up to 3 stun counters from all permanents, draw cards equal to the number of stun counters removed this way. So a little pew 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 pew, and then you draw some cards. Is Spider-Man considered a spider? Like someone with comic book knowledge. Yes, he was bitten by
And a human.
radioactive spider. Do people actually consider Spider-Man a spider? No, right? That seems weird. And then why hero? Like I can, so they're gonna label everyone a hero or a villain. I
Yep.
feel that's so like 50 years ago. Like it's pretty
No.
fluid nowadays, whether you're the hero or the villain, and you swap teams and like stuff. So it's interesting. I want to see if they're gonna do something based on this mechanic. But I don't
That's gotta
know.
be it, right? That's gotta be it. Like, they're setting up, I think the hero villain thing, it's a little jarring. It looks a little bit weird, but I imagine what they're trying to set up is like, once you get to more Marvel sets and more like, you're gonna have all these superheroes running around, and then you're gonna be able to build like a hero deck and put all the heroes together from and do like, I don't know, like like Smash Bros or something. Like, you kind of mash them all together and like you have a hero deck or a villain deck. Like, that's gotta be it, right?
Sounds like Seth designed this set. You're like, who is Spider-Man? Ooh, Spider-Man is a hero. Check.
He's a hero.
We're
I know
gonna make
that.
a hero deck.
And a spider. It's in the name. Of course he's a spider, Richard. Even
Grim,
I
is
know
he a
that.
spider? Is he a spider?
I mean, okay, so I'm gonna push my glasses up and say actually. So yeah, he is a spider because he is genetically altered. With him, kind of think of it not like a literal 1-for-1 spider. He is a genetically mutated human into becoming a spider. So, and on top of that, maybe it's not this exact version, but you know about Man Spider. Then there's Spiders Man. I don't know if you know about that. That's a variant. I know. They went hard with the names, okay? They went hard with the names. And it is a literal Spider-Man, Peter Parker, that there's one where he's just a giant cursed tarantula. And so,
like, that one, yeah, I get. But this is Sensational Spider-Man.
yeah, this is sensational. But this one is just because he's genetically altered into becoming a spider. So a weird variant of a spider. So scientifically a spider.
It seems wrong if I'm playing, oh god, the names blank me.
Like
What are the
Ishkanar or
spiders?
something?
Yeah, Ishkanars. I'm like,
it's
Ishkanar,
really
and then
weird.
here's Spider-Man. You're like, what?
I mean,
So,
it's
interesting.
It's also in the complete wrong colors for spiders, right? In Magic, like, spiders are very much like a green-black based
Morphon
like, creature
spiders.
type. Yeah. I mean, as far as that card itself, it seems like a fun build around. It's worth pointing out, and I think we mentioned this, these 6 cards, not standard legal. Little funny, after they just kind of announced no precons for the deck, so we thought everything was going to be standard legal. But no, these cards are commander-focused, not going to be legal in standard. But I imagine you just, like, jam all the stun counter stuff. I think the question is, do you think stun counters are going to be like Spider-Man's mechanic? Like, do you think we're going to see more of that in the set? Because my only concern with this is stun counters are kind of new. And if you're going to build this sensational Spider-Man deck, you want a lot of stun counter cards in your deck. And there's just not like that many. Scryfall's got 52 total cards, and some of those are in the wrong color identity. Some of them just like straight up suck, and you would never put in your deck. So do you think that's like the mechanic? It kind of works for Spider-Man, right? Like the web thing. It I can see the stun counter kind of like exemplifying that in Magic. I think the flavor works.
I mean, I hope so, because what's a better way to like showcase the webs getting a quick wrap up, if you will. So I don't know. I like stun counters. I think the use of stun counters is also a fun mechanic, just because I know that's a newer mechanic, and I like them. I personally like them. So I want to see more in that design space.
I mean,
I give
if
it
you
10
drop
out of
3
10.
with this, it's busted.
You get extra combats, you stun everything up, you pew 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 pew, and then your finish is just draw 10 cards and pass. Right? Like Spider-Man just leaves him in the web hanging and just goes, like, someone will clean this up, right? So I'm fine with lower power commanders or whatever. Like, this doesn't immediately scream broken or anything, but is it serviceable? Does it have a unique thing? And more importantly, does it feel like Spider-Man? I feel this feels like Spider-Man. Like the stun counters, that's a very Spider-Man-esque thing.
Yeah.
If you want to just murder people, that's not Spider-Man, right? So I really like it.
I don't really care about Spider-Man, which is becoming a recurring theme with these Universes Beyond sets, but I like this as a Magic card because we've never had a stun counter commander, so I think it's pretty neat that we have like a commander now that cares about a mechanic that we've just never really had a commander for before. So I think it's pretty sweet from that perspective too.
Give me the over and under on number of Spider-Mans in this set. So people are like,
Oh, my
Azorius. Why should it be Azorius? Sensational Spider-Man. Are we going to get Amazing Spider-Man?
Oh,
Yes.
There's
we're going to get like 50 of them.
20.
What do you think what do you think's going to happen here with Spider-Man?
Over under, I set at 10. I think 10 would be my over under where I could go either way on that
set
one.
too, right? It's not a Marvel set. It's a Spider-Man set.
Right.
But there's so many characters.
I mean, if you think about just Into the Spider-Verse, there's already over 10, right? Like, I know they said it's not based on the movies, right? But like, and it's based on the comics. And if the Spider-Verse has over 10, then the comics, which I can safely count off the top of my head right now, is well over 10. So again, that big old noggin with full of useless info can tell you that it's over 10.
What? Before I move on, go ahead, Richard. What do you think? What was your guess?
I think it's going to be a lot lower than you think because you want to fit all the iconic villains and other characters into the set, right? So yes, you can go like 50 Spider-Mans, right? But are you not going to put like Carnage in there? You're not going to put, like basically the other 8 billion villains we have in the universe. So you got to fit them in, right? You got to fit in the Aunt May and the Uncle Ben and the whatever, right? So I feel they're going be
Uncle
relatively...
Ben's gonna die in my card game again. It's not a spoiler alert. That's like 30 million years old.
You gotta sack him to draw a card, okay? Well, like Spirit Command, you just sack him to draw a card. But anyway, like there's so many characters, so I think they're gonna start with a small number, but over the years we'll rack them up, right? Like every time you need a new promo card, look, it's a new Spider-Man, right? So I think that's how they'll do it.
I wonder if that's a possibility. Like, I wonder if they can just print like promo Spider-Mans for FNM and stuff. Like, I would love to know what their contracts look like to know if that's possible. Before we move on from Spider-Man, what do you think of the color combination? Because that's one of the things I've heard the most griping about with the Spider-Man card is people being like, it shouldn't be Bant. So Wizards said they view it as Bant. Spider-Man's a Bant character. If you think about it, it's white because he wants to use his abilities to help others for the good of others. Blue because he's a product of science. And then green because his abilities come from a spider, so that's a nature. So they view him as Bant. I saw a lot of people being like, he should be Rakdos. He should be red. Look at him. He's got red all over his uniform. Like, what color would you have made Spider-Man if you were designing it?
I mean, honestly, it depends which version, right? Because this is why I think a Spider-Man set works. I think he can probably get in every color because of how all of his story arcs are. So hell, you could tell me that there's a Wooburg Spider-Man, but like, I don't know, for the base version, the one that we're looking at, like, I could see it, right? Blue white works. I mean, I think there should be a red one. I even think there should be one talking about his Venom suit days in black. I could see there being one in Golgari. I could see one in Rakdos. Hell, as weird as that sounds, why not?
Okay, so Krim has described the One Piece methodology where there's like 15 cards of each character and color pie doesn't matter because each like there's always a certain point where this character acts, like all red or all white or all black or something, right? So you can pick and choose. I wish Wizards took that approach so you wouldn't be restricted, right? Like if you like playing mono black, there will be a Spider-Man for you, right? But because they're taking this hard line stance of a color identity, I think Bant is the right one. Like I think if you just average out like all the Spider-Mans throughout all time and like how they behave and what they do, like they're not Rakdos in my mind, right? Like maybe there are periods of Rakdos or very specific versions of Rakdos, but the average one is probably Bant. So I think that's fine, but I don't know. I'm not like a hardcore Spider-Man nerd, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure you can be, but actually, right? But I don't know, right? Like if you're just
I
like
mean,
from the Saturday morning cartoon, seems pretty Bant to me, right? So like that's it, right? Like
yeah, that's kind of was for me, right? Because I'm like super casual on Spider-Man. So for me, I think of it just like the superhero guy. And when I read the explanation, I was like, oh, that makes sense, right? From an animal, so that's kind of green. He's a good guy. That's kind of white. So from the casual perspective, I think that makes sense. Although I guess it is unfortunate that he's very red colored. So I can see why people would immediately jump to like there should be red in there just because he looks kind of red.
I mean, that's the
what?
same
Just
as like
because
why
he's
like
wearing a red costume. Oh
yeah,
no,
like
this is
I hope it's not that way. I hope it's not literal, right? Because it's like Black Panther would be in black, which makes no sense, right? Because like Black Panther is perfect as Selesnya. And then
yeah.
you have Green Goblin, like maybe he could be Jund, but really not really, because there's nothing about him that is about nature and being one with the nature elements. He is literally all about modifying it and mutating it. So I don't know.
All right. Let's talk about Venom, Deadly Devourer. 4 mana Golgari, legendary creature, symbiote villain, vigilance, menace. 3 generic mana, exile target creature from a graveyard. When you do, put X+1/+1 counters on target symbiote, where X is the exiled card's toughness.
This is a weird one right now because there's no other symbiotes in Magic. This is
Well,
literally the only
himself.
symbiote. So right
Yeah.
now it's pretty Voltron-y, right? I imagine maybe we get more in the set. Maybe I guess I don't even know if that works for Spider-Man or not. Are there a bunch of symbiotes running around? So I hope we get more in the set. But right now I think this is kind of a cool commander, right? You just put your Death Shadow in the graveyard and exile. It's kind of like a Varal's. It's kind of like Varal's, except you can only scavenge onto it right now because it's only symbiote. But it's got vigilance and menace. It seems pretty easy to turn this into like a one-shot kill Voltron threat.
I mean, yeah, like that's got to be the way to go about it, right? You're gonna have to Voltron it up for now, but I love how much flavor Spider-Man has, and then Venom is just like I eat because that is what he does.
He
Like
does
all
this.
he
What's
talks
wrong with the
about.
flavor?
No, there's no flavor like fail here. It's just funny when you break down what Venom kind of is. He's just like, I'm hungry. So that's his lore pretty much. Maybe there's a symbiote god or something like that, but that they may include in the set. I have no idea. Again, there's a lot to Venom, and I think this shows that there's got to be at least a few more symbiotes somewhere, right? But
You
the
would
thing
think.
is, this is a Spider-Man set, and this is where it gets funny because there's Spider-Man and then all the variants, and then there's Venom and then all the other symbiotes, right? So Carnage, but then there's how deep are they going into this, right? Like that's my question.
That's it. If you ask the random person on the street how many there are, they're like Venom and Carnage, and then that's it. That's where it ends. So the third one is not coming because I can't even name it.
See, like
They might go deeper. They might have to go deeper just to make it work, right? If you want to make symbiotes a deck, you got to go deeper than that. Unless you're just going to put a ton of Venom.
Like a sorcery
maybe
or
do a ton
something
of Venoms.
that references symbiotes, and then you'll see the other ones in the art, kind of like how we had Colossus or whatever in the Storm deck. But like I can't imagine them wasting one of their named character slots like on lower tier characters. And I know you're offended by that, Krim, but think of like Aunt May's gotta come before Symbiote 3, right? Like, you gotta put Doc Ock in before Symbiote 3, right? Like there's so many more things you gotta do, right?
but okay. There's a phage symbiote, Richard.
Is there?
See,
Ooh,
so there you go. You get a reskin of Phage
That's
the
a-
Untouchable.
that's an
and
easy one.
Standard.
Yeah, okay, if they want to reskin cards, then that's always available, right?
I mean, there's
Okay.
a lot. There's a lot of symbiotes, but then yeah, I'm joking because then you would have to change the type to Phage, right? But
Can there just be like unnamed symbiotes? I don't know enough about Spider-Man, but can we just have random commons? So there's like a draft archetype that's just like, I don't know, random symbiote
Mob of
dude. Like, does that
symbiotes?
make sense? Or are they all like very specific name characters in Spider-Man?
all the I mean, technically you could simplify it and just be like, someone's gonna bring up the other symbiotes. We're gonna meet that with gang of symbiotes, right?
Okay.
You know what I mean? I don't know if there's actually a comic book term, like it's not like a crash of rhinos, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
a gaggle of symbiotes.
A gaggle of symbiotes.
But yeah, like this there's a lot of symbiotes, and some of them are actually kind of popular, right? And this leads to like me wondering, will we see Null, which is like a symbiote god, right? But whatever. I know that they can't do all of that because it is still a Spider-Man set, but I do have to imagine the Sinister Six matters, right?
Marvel Snap makes so much more sense now that you told me who Null is. Okay.
Oh,
The light bulb just went
Now
out.
his ability makes sense to me. I will say, I think you guys are thinking too deep on support. This is a supplemental product, so it doesn't mean, it has to synergize with the rest of standard. But Venom is like one of the swollest heroes in Marvel, right? The way they draw him, it's like the Hulk
Yeah.
and then Venom. So I think the intent is you just stack up Venom to be the swollest green black commander you can possibly make and smack face, rather than spawn 5 symbiotes, go wide. Like, yeah, I guess,
Yeah.
but like I think most people
Yeah,
just want
yeah.
to get swole and smack. So it's supplemental. So you don't need a lot of support, right? It doesn't
Yeah,
have to
that
be
makes
a
sense.
draft archetype or something like that, right? This is for commander, and you can just make do making your Golgari scavenge deck or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that exists already today, right?
I mean, yeah.
All right.
We'll see, because this is just a scene box. So
Yeah.
because this is just a scene box, I also think these designs of the cards themselves are very tame, right? A few of them I think are actually really good. But then like example, I think Spider-Man, kind of straightforward, simple, probably like to catch the eye of like a newcomer, right? Along with like Venom. Once we get to the main set, I have to imagine like Lord of the Rings, right? There's gonna be a bunch of Frodos and whatever, and they're gonna be a
Yeah.
little more mechanic heavy. So for right now, the 2 cards we just mentioned, like playability wise, like
They're fine. They're like fine mid-power commanders, I would say. I don't think they're like super push, but you can definitely build a deck around them that would be like fun.
I'm gonna probably eat my words for saying this. Mid power is a bit generous. I think they're low powered.
Yeah,
You
I was
guys
probably
and
trying
your
to be
bracket
nice.
focused talk.
Yeah,
You can
the-
jam this at your pod, no problem. Okay, no
Bracket
problem.
1. I'm gonna bracket 1 this.
Bracket 1 would be a disservice. Okay, Doc Ock, evil inventor, 5 blue black, so 7 mana Demir, 8/8. Human scientist villain, shambles. Spider-Man, not a scientist, but Doc Ock is. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target non-creature artifact you control becomes an 8/8 robot villain artifact creature in addition to its other types.
I mean, this is okay. I think we have to talk about this with like, because like I'm gonna just really fanboy over the design of something here. Doc Ock, we kind of have to talk about the card that comes with him though. But so for right now, Doc Ock, evil inventor.
What's the card that
makes it
comes with him, Grim? Throw it in
Oh.
there. That's fine. Go for it.
Okay, grasping tentacles, 1 blue black, right? Target opponent mills 8 cards. You may put an artifact card from that player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Remember, it's not from among the cards milled, it's just in the graveyard as well. So I think something that is really neat and very like attention to detail about the way they design these cards is that Doc Ock himself is just a scientist, right? Yeah, the villain, blah, 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 and he's just a human. Why isn't he an octopus, right? Because that's the main thing. Because Doc Ock is not actually an octopus. The only thing that makes him an octopus are his tentacles, right? And the way that this works is, so in Magic, when you discard things, you are losing sanity, all of this, yada, 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 right? Your madness, if you will, right? And then mill is like memory loss and all of that. So Doc Ock not being like, Doc Ock is fine. He's just a scientist without his tentacles, but his tentacles are the reason he loses his memory, or is the reason why they eventually kind of just take over who Doc is. So I like that they specifically had the tentacles be mill related here. So I think that is just a very neat and attention to detail style design. And I love that. That is awesome. And design-wise, I think the card itself also makes the 8/8 artifact, of course, the octopus in Magic are all 8/8s. It's a permanent one. It's not till end of turn. Whatever artifact you're turning into it, it's going to be a permanent 8/8. And I really like that as well. But most importantly, I think that Grasping Tentacles card, I think it's going to be it's going to be a super fun card in Commander, dude. Like, that card is going to lead to some wild moments, and I love that card. It's going to be super low value, like when I casted Breach of the Multiverse and all I got was a Monastery Swift Spear, or it's going to be like the wildest Grasping Tentacles.
They're definitely high ceiling if you high roll with it. I feel like Doc Ock, Kareem has to be convinced that the flavor is pretty good. Like, I saw the Ock flavor where they just threw 8s on everything. It's an 8/8 that makes 8/8s, and it mills for 8 with the other card. Like, so that part lined up. The card itself, though, like, it seems incredibly boring to me. Like, maybe if you're like a Doc Ock fan, it makes sense, but just like, here's this big thing and turns an artifact into a big thing. From a Magic player perspective, out of all the legends spoiled from this scene box, this is the one that I think I'm least likely to ever build a deck around, because I feel like it doesn't interest me, especially.
Is it the bowl cut?
It might be the bowl cut.
Get the chibis in here. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Kiora. You know, the Kiora where, I don't know what it is. Like, there's 10 cards in your graveyard or something. You attack and you make an octopus.
3/2. That was a month ago, Richard. Foundation.
That was,
I love that card. I love that. Unfortunately, Kiora is a 3-drop. This is like a 7-drop or something, right? But the Grasping Tentacles, that's a 1-ring, Seth. And if you shall desire, it's an 8/8 indestructible beater, but I know you're just going to tap it for cards. But it could be a solemn, it could be ramping. Like, I kind of like how this goes together. Just nothing crazy powerful, but you can win off the back of 8/8s, no problem. Every turn.
Oh, no, yeah. It's not that it's not a powerful card. It just is kind of boring to me, because all it does is put big bodies on the bed. I really want more things going on with my cards, and this one's just kind of like add power, but you can definitely just like make a bunch of 8/8s and overwhelm people. What do you think of Grasping Tentacles? Like, I know Krim loves it. My question is, do you just jam this in a generic deck? Like, do you actually think this is like a good enough card that you're just like, I'm playing a Krim deck and I'm in the colors, I'm going to play this and get value out of it? Or is it like, I'm a mill deck? I know Zevlar, Krim mentioned, since it can target everyone, stuff like that. Like, how strong do you think Grasping Tentacles is just a commander card, flavor aside?
I try it. I would in our meta, right? Because I know we run Solemns and 1-rings, so there's legit targets. If I'm fetching a Mana Rock, I don't want, but I guess normal people would want that, so that's fine for them too.
Hey, that's
like if you're a Mana Rock believer, 3 mana get a Mana Rock is not terrible, right? So I think you can just generically run this, and we got to see how many times we get burnt by this, right? Like,
whipping or milling your opponent's reanimation targets.
But you have your commander out or something. You know what I mean? Like there's is it opponents or is it everyone? I don't know.
Portal to Phyrexia is opponents, but yeah.
Oh, okay, maybe you do want that, right? So it depends on your meta, I think. But since Mana Rocks, the 1-ring, those things are plentiful, this can't be like that bad, right?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna jam it anytime I can, Nix, whenever it comes out. But I do agree though with Seth. This is very Timmy, right? Like, this is super Timmy. I'm just making 8/8s, giant 8/8 robots, which at the end of the day, this is the scene box. This is like because this stuff was revealed at a toy fair. So a toy fair, which means that like there's gonna be kids, right? There's gonna be a younger demographic and people that just want the simple thing. You can't have Doc Ock with like 8/8 reach trample, like all these things, like on top of that, making it a crazy worded card and then a backside, like you don't want that. So I appreciate the simplicity of it.
Speaking of which, he should definitely have reach. I feel this was like a major like favor flail.
Sure.
Like random green monster on the ground has reach, but not Doc Ock. Like, come on.
I mean, if Oketra, until they patch Oketra, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Green Goblin Nemesis, 4 mana Rakdos, 3/3, legendary creature, Goblin human villain. Is he a goblin?
Okay,
I don't even know.
Is he a
Flying.
human?
Whenever
I
you
don't
discard a non-land card, put a +1/+1 counter on target goblin you control. Whenever you discard a land card, create a tapped treasure token. Isn't Green Goblin just a dude in a goblin outfit? What happened
No.
here? Did he actually become a goblin at some point?
Okay. So the movies, yes, he is just in a he's Goblin Iron Man, right? But
Yeah.
but in the comic books, he's modified like genetically, so he actually does become like a goblin. And then there's the Ultimate Universe where they really make him a goblin. But that's where we're getting. Well, in another universe instead of the 616, Richard, let me tell you about it. No, but he is a goblin, genetically altered in the same way that would make sense, like how Spider-Man is a spider.
All right, and then since we gave Doc Ock his tentacle, I'll give you his pumpkin bombs. So 1 in a red artifact, tap, discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards, then put a fuse counter on this artifact. It deals damage equal to the number of fuse counters on it to target opponent. They gain control of this artifact. What?
I'm gonna be very real with you.
The boomerang pumpkin
very
bombs.
real. Y'all are gonna see this all season long in Commander Clash. If I have a red deck, it's now going to be Roiling Vortex pumpkin bombs too. That's how I'm gonna build my red cards.
Interesting.
Pumpkin bombs is fun. It's not because it's good, by the way. I mean, it's pretty good. You ditch 2. Right, you rummage.
It's good if you sack it.
I mean, no. We don't want you to sack it, right? Because this is kind of like, have you ever played with like a Jinx Choker card?
Yeah, I was thinking Humble Defector. Kind of reminds me of Humble Defector, like the pass around the table card draw effect.
It's both, right? It's those 2 cards mashed together. This is gonna go around the table. It's gonna go around, and you don't think much. But Jinx Choker actually will deal a lot of damage in its time around the table. So I like pumpkin bombs. I also, again, a little bit to go back to what I had mentioned about Doc Ock and Mill, the loss of memory, all of that, right? Now you have Green Goblin, who is literally just completely off his rocker. And it's all because the serum going wild. You've seen the meme of the mask talking to Norman Osborn, although that's not a mask. It's really his head, or it should be in the comics. But because of the way that looks, I think that you discarding your own cards, that's Flavor Town. That's Flavor Town for what discard represents in Magic and then what Green Goblin is. So I personally love that. The only thing I don't really understand is the reward part. Maybe I'm missing something here on why he deserves a treasure token, right? Like I get the 1/1 counter. So what?
He's rampant. That's what he's
rampant.
He
mean,
needs to be mechanically sound. Otherwise, you won't play him.
Is it because he's rich? Because he owns Oscorp? Is that why? Like maybe
I think that's actually why.
Okay.
I
okay.
mean,
Sure. Okay.
He's a billionaire. Like Iron Man makes treasures.
That's fair. That's fair. But then
Green Goblin's gotta make treasures.
Spider-Man's got to lose treasures then, right? Because he's broke, right? Like, so I don't know how they're gonna do that, but like he's legit broke in the story. So I get it. All right. That's all. I had to question that part really.
Yeah. I don't know about the flavor, but I think this is the most interesting Magic card out of the Legends. Like, I think this is the one I'm most excited to build a deck around. I've been kind of addicted to Monument of Endurance decks and, like, the self-discard theme ever since we got Ether Drift. And this seems like another really cool, like, self-discard commander. It doesn't seem like too busted, I think, which is probably a good thing, because these cards can be like kind of overwhelming if you go too far with them. Like the treasures tap, so you're not just going to go full infinite with it, which I think is a positive in this case. But it seems like a fun self-discard commander. You don't even need goblins because it's a goblin, so you kind of do the Voltron thing where you just like wheel yourself, and all of a sudden you get a ton of counters on your green goblin and start one-shotting people. So I think it's a Magic card. It seems like the most fun legend to build around out of the 4 that we saw. At least for me, that's the one I'm most excited to build around.
Yeah, I mean, like he kind of represents the Mind Goblin, you know, like he's great. Like you know what I mean, Richard, Seth, the Mind Goblin.
Tomer unironically posting "What's a Mind Goblin" on his Twitter is still one of my all-time favorite Goldfish moments because he just honestly didn't know.
And the internet let him know.
Oh, they did. They did their job. The internet always
kindly
comes through.
let him know. But this is a fun commander, right? For goblins, you get to play kind of like madness goblins.
Oh, you never play
Anytime
you play Hollow One with this, right? You're like,
Yeah.
wheel. Everyone draw 3, discard 3, draw 2. Oh, what is this extra combat? You're all dead, right? If you
Yep.
play Amulet of Vigor, then you just combo kill
Yeah.
in one turn, right? Because as you discard your lands, you make treasures, and then you can just do it. So
The treasures,
this is very.
the mana, yeah.
This is very Hollow One in my mind. You take the Hollow One cards, throw it in this deck. This would be pretty cool. And then I guess you can build Rakdos Goblins if you want, but that's typically go wide, Krenko type things. I don't know how you would use this ability in that regards, but you could.
But that's the fun. You would weave in the discard package.
I did a little research on it. There's a few goblins that actually care about discarding. There's like a kinship one from Morningtide that if there's a goblin on top of your deck, you get to like discard your hand and draw 4 cards. Fable the Mirror Breaker. There's a few just like looting goblins. So I think I would probably go like in between. I think I'd build the Hollow One deck, but then try to jam in like 10 goblins that actually work with the theme rather than like try to build 50 goblin Krenko style deck and like jam in 10 discard effects. So I think that's how I would go with it. But it seems like it could be pretty strong. What do you think, just power level, discount flavor, discount all that stuff, which one of these do you think is just the strongest commander of the bunch?
Oh,
and then we gotta move on to some other stuff. Yeah, I would go Green Goblin pretty
by a
easily. I think
landslide.
I'd go Green Goblin, Spider-Man, Venom, Dr. Ock would be probably my ranking.
That's fair. I mean, like I again, Green
Spider-Man,
Goblin is
Venom.
nuts.
Based on their colors. You're playing Rakdos, Seth. Like, how good can your Rakdos deck be?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I mean,
those are the worst
Spider-Man
colors.
makes sense, but Venom over Green Goblin, even because Golgari you think is better than Rakdos.
I just ramp and then one shot you with a Venom. Like the green, I think the green just like makes it so much stronger. And you could, like, you're doing all these weird shenanigans to pump Green Goblin. I'm just gonna chuck a Hunted Horror or something in my yard and then just pump Venom and like one shot you. So I think Venom is like the dumber way. Green Goblin is the fancy way, right? But I feel Venom is just much easier to pull off than Green Goblin. That is my guess. And they both kind of do the same thing. They both just like one shot your opponent out of nowhere. So, but one has green in it and one does not.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, you're right. You're right. Like that does actually work for 3 mana, and you just play like some kind of ability reducer, like cost reducer. That's nice. I mean, Green Goblin. I'm surprised, by the way. Just one last thing before we move on from this is, I'm surprised they didn't attach the magical clause that Magic puts on everything in the current year, which is once per turn.
Oh, I thought you said
Like,
ward.
No. No, God, no, not ward. Like,
I feel like the tappedness of the treasure lets them get away with it. If it was an untapped treasure, I think you'd probably have to have once per turn, or this would go infinite so easy. At least with the tapped treasure, you got to do what Richard said and have like an amulet out. You need like an additional combo piece if you want to easily just like pop off with it. So maybe that's enough. But yeah, I could see them sticking that restriction on there. They do like it. Well, let's move on. A couple other. Oh, go ahead, Richard.
I just said you just wheel and then just untap and you have like 5 treasures, right?
Got
so
'em.
even if you do it the
that's what I'm
fair way,
thinking.
it's like not that bad. But yeah.
Yeah, it just makes you like not win in the same turn as easily. But anyway, other Spider-Man news. Before I want to talk about this price stuff a little bit, but Spider-Man news. Wizard CEO Chris Cox, in an earnings call this past week, mentioned that no commander precons for Spider-Man, just straight up not making any commander precons. I was curious. I mean, obviously, Wizards loves their commander precons. The only thing that made sense to me is they couldn't get the rights to make commander precons. Can you think of any other reason why they wouldn't make commander precons for Spider-Man other than they literally just were not allowed to?
Maybe to streamline the products, right? I think as Universes Beyond now is a standard kind of thing, right? And they did the border change. I don't know if you saw that, right? Like before it used to
Yep.
have like the triangle to represent
Well, yeah.
UB, but
That's the new hollow, new border.
yeah, I think because of this, I think Magic themselves are trying to streamline everything. They're trying to make it. They are behind, but that's because they've been working ahead and we've been complaining about how much product there has been. And so I guess, they're just going to try to make it so that there's only this set, maybe a scene box, which makes sense for comic books, which is, visual storytelling, if you will, through panels. And I do not exactly hate it either. I'm kind of down for less stuff, especially my big issue with all of these Universes Beyond so far. With that in mind, which is the pricing, I am glad. Like, please God, no, not every set, right? For some odd reason, Modern Masters or Modern Horizons 3 had a commander decks, right? So I'm just like,
Yeah.
you don't
I
need commander decks every set, even if it is Spider-Man.
I would agree with that, but I feel like when you dump your money into Universes Beyond and paying for someone else's IP, I feel like Spider-Man is like literally that they should be making Commander precons for, because it's like the new player format. You're gonna grab a precon at Walmart or whatever. Maybe the scene box or something like that will replace it for new players, or like they talked about new welcome decks that are, I guess, gonna be Spider-Man flavored, like the ones they give away at LGSs are coming alongside Spider-Man apparently. So maybe
Brilliant move, by the way.
that'll fill the gap, but I feel like I also would like less Commander precons, but I also feel like the Universe Beyond sets are the ones that probably should get the Commander precons the most. Like, if you're gonna skip one, skip Ether Drift or something like that. Like, no one wants that, and just like make more Spider-Man
What?
precons.
We're gonna skip
Would you
Turkey or
believe me?
Dragonstorm? Like,
No,
because you
the hat
wanted a
sets. Skip the
Spider-Man?
hat sets. Just skip those.
I think they have no room, right? Like, they don't want to overload you with commander products. Spider-Man is not going away anytime soon. Like, anytime they want, they can whip out the Marvel Secret Lair commander set. And I would say Marvel is probably the least stingy with their IP. Like, of all IP collabs, like, Marvel just like shoves it out there everywhere. Every mobile game developer in the world can get a Marvel license if they want. So I don't think it's Wizards like couldn't get the commander product made. I think they're choosing not to do it, probably in response to too many products, and they probably want to keep Dragonstorm or whatever to have commander products. So they're like, okay, Spider-Man can go, but we're doing Marvel for like 8 million years, so it doesn't matter. We can always make a Spider-Man commander precon in the future. So
Yeah,
this is not a
maybe that's
one-shot Universes Beyond, right? I feel this is open on the table forever, so they'll, next year we can have 4 Spider-Man precons if this is the greatest set ever, right? Like, so I don't think it's a problem.
So you think we'll still get them eventually. What do you think about the hollow thing that Krim brought up? So in the past, since the start of Universes Beyond Triangle Hollow, so you would know if it was Universes Beyond or in Universe. With Spider-Man, that's going away. All going to look exactly the same. Wizards definitely really pushing it's all the same thing. It says Magic on the cards. If you sit down, you're saying you're playing a game of Magic, so it's Magic. They all should be exactly the same. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the change? Do we need a differentiation between in universe and out of universe?
This is the only concern I have about this is like, is this an excuse to give us more walnut cards or whatever? Like, please God, no.
Acorn
Oh,
cards.
please,
Yeah.
Lord, no acorns.
Like,
My
please
God,
no more. But I do. I guess at this point they've kind of just told you like it's in standard. So why would your standard card have an entirely different border, right? So I guess it makes sense. I don't mind it. I think it's great. You know what I mean? Like it is all in Magic now. So I guess why have a whole separate border for it? I like it. It also just feels right as opposed to the rando triangle.
It should have been like this from the beginning. And the
Yeah.
more confusing thing is like Dungeons and Dragons considered in universe, but the movie cards considered out of universe.
Yeah.
When Dungeons and Dragons is not in universe at all. Like, I don't know, right? Like, it was so arbitrary that they're like, yeah, we should just get rid of it. I don't know why we even added it to begin with, so people could feel good about shaming cards out of the format.
Yeah.
Like, why did we even add it to begin with, right? Like, either it's legal or it's not legal. why is it legal with asterisks, right? Like that's what that Universes Beyond logo
Yeah.
meant, right? So I think it's fine. I don't think it means I don't think we're getting more acorns or anything like that. I think they just like there's just no reason for this differentiation, especially since it's been so loosey goosey in the past. So
I
The
it's
mean,
fine. But
consistency,
Universes Beyond
yeah.
haters in shambles, right? This means Wizards is not drawing that line anymore, right? So like that's
Well,
publicly saying something, right? Like we're not making this distinction anymore. So we're not even gonna bother with this. So you guys have to do it yourself.
it's actually funny. The most complaints I heard from the community were actually people who liked Universes Beyond and wanted to build all Universes Beyond decks. And they were like, oh, this like was a really easy way for me to be like, I'm building this all whatever deck. And I could tell super easily that all the cards were from that and not from like normal Magic. So actually the complaints I saw on Reddit were people that liked it because they knew it was Universes Beyond. So they knew they could put it in their all Universes Beyond decks, which is kind of funny.
I mean,
Seems like
it
fabricated
is.
off-season complaints. If you can't tell from the art and flavor that your universe is beyond, like, why are you including it in your deck, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel this is a very minor complaint for this. It
I
also
think
saves Wizards money. They don't have to make the triangle anymore. Do you think they'll
Yeah.
pass
No,
it
I
on
don't
to
know if that
triangles.
actually
Yeah, you
by
got
lowering-
anybody money.
way more corners than oval, and we know those corners like get costly. They add up.
They have a deal on triangles. Like I do
Triangles on sale.
wonder. Yeah. I do wonder if does this mean that we'll see like a reprinting of like Lord of the Rings or like cuz like I think Lord of the Rings as a set, right, is still in print or no?
I think they said they could
Because-
print it for 2 years, which I imagine is running out like this in a couple months, like June or whenever it released. We should be hitting the 2-year mark here shortly. So maybe
will
they
s-
still could. I will say, from everything they've said about these changes to Universes Beyond, they always talk about we're not going back and like fixing it for Assassin's Creed or Fallout. So I imagine it's probably going to apply going forward, and they're not going to like try to reprint all the old ones just to make the holo right. But if they do
Okay.
reprint them, I'm sure it'll have the new holo on it if they did for some reason.
Okay.
Can
That's
you
what I was
lift the
wondering.
hollow? Is there a black market for hollows? Like, can I get my like Final Fantasy cards and like lift the triangle off the Warhammer and like
I've
stick it on?
never-
You know, people like whiteborder their cards. Can I do that? I
I've
don't even
ne-
know how it's made. Like, can you do that?
I've never tried.
My
I
assumption
actually
is
don't
no,
know.
because it would defeat the purpose of the security. Because the original intent of this is a security thing, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
counterfeiters
exactly.
can't make this. So if you can just easily lift it, I assume it doesn't provide its original goal. But it'd be funny if you like made all the murders of Karloff Manor universes beyond because you like disagreed with it, and then made Final Fantasy universes within, and like that's your alter deck. I gotta try that for science. Maybe you can lift it.
All right, let's move on to one other super serious topic. We've had a lot of fun conversation about these Spider-Man cards, but this is something that actually is really concerning to me that comes alongside not Spider-Man in specific, but Universes Beyond coming to standard. So we talked months ago about when they announced that Universes Beyond was coming to standard. One of the big worries we had was not so much Universes Beyond being in standard, but 6 sets a year being in standard, just like increasing the cost, increasing how much time you got to spend to try to keep up on it. It's going to make it tougher. And then just recently we found out that for Universes Beyond sets that are standard legal, the price is jumping up pretty significantly compared to in-universe sets. So the MSRP for in-universe sets like Ether Rift, a play booster was $5.25. The MSRP for a Universes Beyond set, $7, $6.99. Collector boosters go from $24.99 to $37.99. Commander precons go from 40 something to 70. So basically, price increases from like 30 to 50%, depending on the specific product you buy. How big of a deal is this? So we've seen expensive sets in the past, right? Modern Horizons, Masters sets, even like Lord of the Rings sold for more than a typical standard set. The difference now, though, is these sets are in standard, right? It's not like you can just be like, oh, I'm a standard player. I don't play modern, so I don't have to buy any Lord of the Rings or whatever. Like now, if you play any format, you're going to have to keep up on these cards. How big of a deal is this price increase? Like, especially combined with just getting more standard sets, is there any worry that all the work that Wizards has done in the last year, bringing back pro tours, doing promos, all this stuff to try to make paper standard a thing again, are they going to undo some of that work by just bringing up prices so high that people are going to have to pay $600-$700 for a standard deck and people just opt out of it?
Oh God, this is my concern as well. Because like we play Standard. I play Standard all the time.
Yep.
And like this is one of those things where if it's a Standard set, it should be printed into the ground, right? And
Yeah.
at whatever Ether Drift is, whatever it. Oh God, please don't take this as an invitation to then hike up the
Increase
price of an
Ether Drift,
in-universe. Yeah, like I wanted to match Ether Drift's price. I wanted to match, Murders and Outlaws, all those in-universe sets, right? Why is this so much more? This is a full like $2 more. This is my biggest problem with all of this. This is so cool. And again, a little bit of what I had an issue with when it came to the Secret Lair Marvel approach is that, this is limited. Okay, yes. But if your goal is to get new people in through this, they should be able to get it, right?
Exactly.
So this is one of those things where it's like, okay, well, hey, like if I saw this as a middle schooler, hey, small crim, yeah, you want to get into Magic? Well, instead of it like Onslaught and whatever, and Odyssey being like $3 a pack, yeah, it's $7. That changes a lot because when you think about it from lunch dollars, because I didn't eat, I skipped lunch to buy Magic. That's like, I would now have to skip 2 more lunches.
That's a lot of lunches, yeah.
Like, yeah, exactly. That's a lot of lunches.
Crim's gonna be starving.
Exactly. Little Crim's gonna be starving from this. So I don't like this price hike. And I mean, again, it should match the rest of the stuff because you're trying to onboard new players. Like, I don't know how I, as an LGS, could give a small child an intro deck that has Spider-Man on it. And if he enjoys it, then has to go and spend like $4 million to get like a deck. So,
yeah. What do you think, Richard? Does it matter?
Expensive. I mean, yeah, it matters because it makes Standard more expensive. And it makes it so I don't want to buy the cards, right? Like, I think the thing that really hurts it is the gamblers, right? Like you want to spend $100 to go gamble and like crack some packs for fun, but now it's like $200, right? Like if you're buying singles, like, okay, you're like 10-15% more expensive. It's not the end of the world, but it might make you go from buying a box to buying 0 boxes. And the thing that really hurts is play boosters. Like, I do not want to ever crack a play booster now because all of the good cards, like the chase cards, are in collector boosters. Well, what is the point of spending this money to crack for like draft chaff, right? So I don't know, but they're making me like not want to buy their products anymore when in fact, like the IP and the design is the one I want to buy. Like, I want to buy Final Fantasy, I want to buy Spider-Man, but at these prices, I'm like,
Singles.
I don't
Is it actually
really need this,
worth it?
right? Like, I actually want one of every Final Fantasy card, and that's like almost a legit excuse to start cracking boxes. But I'm like, so I don't know. I feel there's a limit to this price, and the fact that the good cards are locked is kind of what hurts. Like, if you can get any card in a play booster, it becomes a lot more appealing, right? Like, it's kind of like the serialized 101 ring, right? Like, once you know it's gone, you don't have the motive to crack, even though the probability of opening it was basically 0 for you anyway. But like, that psychological barrier stops you. So I wonder how this will pan out in the long run.
That's actually kind of funny because I was kind of thinking the opposite, that like if they just jacked up the price on collector boosters, I actually wouldn't care that much, even though those are the boosters that I open the most because they're the most interesting. But they're all just like special treatments. If they kept the price of play boosters as low as possible or like similar to normal sets and just increase the price on collector boosters, I don't know if I'd actually be complaining about it because I'd be like, okay, like, sure, that's fine. Almost like Arena, like skins and all the cosmetics on Arena. Like, sure, as long as the base game is cheap, I don't care how much you sell your skins for. Those are optional. You don't need them. But at the same time, I hear what Richard is saying. Like, it kind of sucks to open a play booster because you can't get the coolest stuff in there. Do you think if they put the cool stuff in play boosters, but the odds were just like even more microscopically low than collector boosters, where right now I think they actually published the odds for the serialized cards in the last set, and it was 0.01 of boosters will have a serialized card. What if it was like 0.00000? Like, there's one serialized card in every play booster box that they print. Like, there's technically a chance, but like your odds of getting one are like essentially 0. Would that do it, just like to be able to say there's a chance? Or do you actually have to, like, in practice, you open a box and like, oh, I'm getting cool cards out of this?
I think there needs to be some reasonable shot. Like it doesn't have to be that high, right? But let's say one serialized card per case or something, right? And then I don't know how many boxes come in case, either 6 or 12 or something like that. So
Yeah.
1 in 6 or 1 in 12 have a serialized card. That's like tangible, right? Like I will
Right.
actually, like that seems reasonable, even though it doesn't work out in your favor at all. Like that's like graspable. But if you're like 1 in 10,000 cases get one, you're like, okay, that's like basically zero, right?
It really doesn't exist. Yeah.
So like I think like One Piece makes it super obvious, right? Like there's so many hits you get per box. There's so many like mangas per case, and it's very achievable. And it's only one product to crack. You don't even have a choice. And I feel we should all go back to that model, like Pokemon, like One Piece. Like I don't know about the split thing where like you crack this and all the cool stuff is not there, but don't worry, you're a poor person, so it's all you get, right? Like it's kind of like making that divide when it's not necessary. You could have just like lowered the rates of everything and made one product to like achieve the same level of desirability. But I don't know. It just feels bad, like seeing all the cool alt arts and knowing that your box has 0% chance of getting it. Like I'll take a
I
1 in 12 for my box, right? And because it's terrible at that, right? Because there's like 50 alt arts or something, and then it's like 1 in 12 box to get it, and then it's 1 in 50 to get it. Your chances are very low, but you still like that's still enough for you to go, right? So I don't know. Cracking boxes doesn't seem fun anymore, especially since I watch Seth crack like $2,000 of boxes all the time and get like absolutely crap. And then I'm like, well, what is my one
Sometimes I
play
get good
booster
stuff.
box gonna do, right? Like like the internet has kind of ruined box cracking too, right?
I think what they want you to do, Richard, is they want you to feel like, oh, this sucks, I can't get the cool cards. But then they're hoping that you're like, well, I guess that means I'll just spend $500 on a collector booster box so I can get the cool cards instead of I won't buy any of those. I think that's what they're hoping is going to happen. But I don't know if that actually happens in practice. What scares me most about this is I know Richard really loves Final Fantasy. It was really hyped for Final Fantasy. And then when the prices came out, you're like, I don't know if I'm actually going to buy Final
$650.
Fantasy. So if it's
did the math,
losing
man.
you
Like,
for like the perfect set, like that scares me because it's going to do that to other people too, right?
I'll crack 4 boxes of One Piece and I'll have so much more fun than cracking one collector booster of Final Fantasy, right? Like it's like not like I can probably measure the amount of enjoyment, and it's like multiple times more because every box I could have a manga, every box I could get like 3 alt arts or whatever, right? And it's just volume of cracking too, right? Like, if you watch someone crack a collector booster, it's a little sad, right? It's just like a handful of packs. Like, do you even call it a box anymore, right? So I don't know, man. Like Wizards are somehow taking the fun out of box cracking. And it's because it's like a one shot, like very high risk, high reward, as opposed to like I don't
I
know, the constant stimulation of like, yeah, did you win? It's like penny slots versus like one,
high
one rip,
end, high
right?
roller.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever watch any sports card openings? Like, that's because they have went even further that direction where you get like one pack in a box that has like 2 cards in it and you pay like $2,000, but it's like
but
guaranteed
don't bring
that it's
this
going to
up.
be this super
Seth.
serialized, like the coolest autographed jerseys. So you're literally paying like $1,000 a card in some cases or close to that. Like, I think it's more likely Magic goes
Is that more
direction.
exciting or less? So Seth, you are the pack cracker here. Is that more exciting or less exciting? Like, do you want one pack with all the glory on the line, or do you just want like a constant
Dude.
stream of packs?
The
I think-
thrill of that is insane, though. You got to understand that, right? Like all or nothing. Like this is like if remember when Double Masters came out and they had the VIP boosters.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
it would be like that, and it's just like, oh god, I'm gonna spend $2,000 and just open 2 cards, right?
Well,
It's just like, oh,
I mean, the upside is if you get the right 2 cards and it's the rookie whatever with the autograph 101 patch is like a $50,000 card. So like the reward is very high if you hit well, but then you also have the risk that you open 2 $20 cards because it's scrubs no one cares about and you lost $2,000. I actually think that would not be as exciting. Like thinking of like the opening channel, I don't think it would be that exciting, or it would just be prohibitively expensive. It would be exciting if we could open 100 of them, but who's going to spend $200,000 to crack open, a 30-minute video worth of booster packs? Like, no one could actually do that. I think collector boosters are probably about right for me. Like, you still get a chance to get cool stuff. They are kind of ungodly expensive, but at least they're not $2,000 for 2 cards expensive.
Seth gets a pass because he gets to do it for free.
Yeah, that is also...
Have you ever
that
thought
is
if you
also
had
not-
to drop $2,000 for that experience, if it would be as cool?
If I got to do that, oh Lord, yeah, that's a different story. But like, I'm sorry. If it's my own hard dollars, no. Just give me the singles. Just give me the singles. I do think we should go back to like the point that Seth brought up though, and I do like that. I think that was the hope for what I had for play boosters. Right? Like play boosters could have been that middle ground where it's like whales can flock to the collector boosters. Yep. I love that by default, everyone's like, oh my God, collector boosters are this much. Collector's boosters don't matter to me because I can just buy play boosters and that's what I care about. I need the cards. Anything beyond that, I would buy the single, right?
Yeah.
So personally, I think play boosters should not be a markup. The play boosters at least give me my, I guess, air quote peasant version. I will take that if it means I don't have to spend $700 on a box. I want to just spend $120. Maybe
that's kind of
$100. You got to charge peasant prices. It's got to be like $80, right? Like because they're charging you the same price that you used to pay to get all the chase cards. So if they mark it extremely low, I think it's very enticing. But when I think 120, I'm like, that's what I used to pay for like literally any Magic products, but now it's missing all the cool treatments, right? So they got to go down to like $60, $80 or whatever.
Knock it down
like,
to like $60, but then they bend the corners of some of the cards in the factory, so you never know when, when you just get one that's
how
like
about they
super
just
heavy
curl
play.
all the foils beforehand for me, you know? Like,
do you know how you would now have to buy your packs? Oh, do you want it slightly played, heavily played, or near mint?
Yeah, you got to pay more for near mint. Yeah. Anyway, I think that's all we got time for today. No fish mail this week, but that's on y'all. You didn't send in any new fish mail, so if you want new fish mail next week, you better send us in some questions. Richard, how do they send in questions for your fish mails?
All right, hit us up on Twitter or Blue Sky at MTGGoldfish with the hashtag MTGFishmail, and we'll get to your questions on air.
And I believe that brings us to the end of episode 525 of the MTG Goldfish podcast. So, Richard Cribb, thanks for hanging out. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks to Card Conduit for supporting the show. And we will be back next week to talk about whatever goes on in the world of Magic. So, until then, have an amazing week, everyone. And this is the crew signing out.